I was about 10 years old when the war started. I was raised in a section of Honolulu called Paulama. Lama means an enclosement that has magic. Pa is close it up. And it's like, but it wasn't a magic place. It was a very, very old section. The houses were very close together. My grandmother was there. Mom and Dad had to work, so my grandma took care of us. So my background is my grandma. She would go back to Maui maybe once a year. And when I was little, like 7, 8, 9, before the war, I went with her in the summertime. She would go to this place called Ulupalakua, which is at the base of Haleakala, the big volcano that's the house of the sun. And when I'd go there with my grandma, it was a place that she was raised at, kind of secluded, kind of up on the hill. But by the time I got there, the guava trees had grown up all over, and it's all, all matted. Because there's nobody there now except one old uncle. And, but I hear stories from my cousin, who's older than I, who went there when she was 8 years old. And her mother went there when she was 8 years old. And from their stories, I see how this place had changed and gone down. This was a place where you could see for miles. And the great-grandmother who lived in this house would see her sister coming way down there on horses. And they would call to each other in Hawaiian. And Hawaiians, you can't just call to each other. You have to give your genealogy. You have to say how much I miss you, away, away, away. And you go through all this stuff. And so this great-grandmother would call her sister. They'd cry, talk about, so glad you're coming, come quick, I miss you so much. And when they get there, get off the horse. They grab each other, they hug and kiss, fall down on the ground, so happy to see each other. My cousin is telling me this because her mother told her that. And I'm thinking to myself, are they poo-pooing? They're crazy? But when I go to that place, I can feel them. It was an old house with a cistern between. You know how old houses are, the cook house here, the sleep house there, the parlor. And that's how it was. And so when I would go with my grandma, I could see the old rose bushes coming up in the weeds all over the place. And the fig trees, and the orange trees, and the ginger blossoms. And then one day, when I lived in Tallahassee, way up off of Taitai Road, I came out of my back door and I thought, what is that smell? I know that smell from my childhood. What is it? Then finally I looked out and the banana tree had bloomed and the red leather had fallen down on the ground. That's the smell. From my grandma's kitchen at Little Polakua, you'd have to walk across this chicken yard. You'd go through the fig trees, the orange trees, banana trees, and there's the lure. If you gotta go in the night, you gotta take the candle. And the smell of my banana leather leaf was the smell of me going to the bathroom at my grandma's house. So I think, when I think about my growing up years like that, it was so wonderful to me. This place was a cowboy place. The Baldwins were a very rich Howley family that owned all the land and had cattle all over. My grandma's house, you go down this little dale and up the hill with pasture to get into Ulupalakua town over here. And there was only one mule, a white mule named Queenie, which is my mother's first name. And so when my uncle was home and working in the yard someplace, I asked my grandma, can I ride the mule? Don't run her, she's too old. Of course. So I get on that thing skinny kid until I grew up. And so I get on the mule and I stop down the road, and you just get outside the yard. The coahuilis are over there now, the guavas all over the place, you get lost out there. Run that thing down the road until it gets to the end before we get down to the big place to go to the highway, and stop. You ride a mule, it stops suddenly. And then if you try to make it go forward and you're not nice, it backs up. Goes in the guava tree, scratch you all up, scrape you against the fence. And I'm only 8 years old, 9 years old. I say, please go home, please. I won't hurt you. I won't kick you anymore. I won't whip you. Just go home. Walk. Just walk. When we get home, Grandma could see poor thing is all sweaty. And so I have to take my leg then too. My grandma didn't put up with that. And so when we go back to Honolulu, Honolulu then was a different place. When we went to the other island, now when you go to the other islands, get on a plane, 30 minutes you're there, nothing to it, nobody cares. When we went to Maui, lay, the Royal Hawaiian band played, 10 o'clock at night, I don't care, everybody came, cry, goodbye, goodbye. We're going to Maui. 30 minutes on the plane, overnight on the boat. We stop at Molokai, drop whoever's going off there, in the morning we come to Wailu. It was such an adventure. Then I come back to Honolulu and I'm in this place. And I have no regrets. It was old. You know how beach houses look all gray because they have no paint? That was our house. And then they were going to raise the place and all the houses were going to be knocked out, so we had to move. So we moved from this end of our Vineyard Street to that end of Vineyard Street, which was the world. It was a pretty little yellow cottage. My sisters and I just thought we were going to heaven. It had little rose bushes in the front. Oh, we just thought it was the most beautiful place in the world. It was about 30 minutes away from Pearl Harbor. So we would walk the 2 miles to our church. My younger sister and my older sister was a border command member, which was up on the hill, stuck out like a sore thumb. So when planes come in, you could just see that big auditorium and blast away is what we thought. So when we moved over there and brought my grandma with us, we were doing just fine. My younger sister and I went to church one morning. My dad would give us 2 dimes. We stopped at a Chinese store and get 2 nickels for my dad, 2 nickels for her. And they sold little ice cakes, syrup water in an ice tray. They were a penny a piece. So we dropped 5 cents and 5 cents for us. And we get home and wonder why they ask us why our tongue is blue. We never could figure that out. So we're sitting in church this Sunday morning, and these black blotches are outside, boom, boom, boom. We're looking out there. What's the matter? But we had air raid alarms and practices, a lot. We'd go up on the hill and black out Honolulu, but you said, Princess Theater got their lights on, blah, 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 like that. Never meant anything to us until that morning. And so some crying mother came in and told the priest, we're being bombed. Everybody go home. Bob and I tracked, 2 skinny kids. We ran 2 miles all the way home. And just as we turned in the driveway, my mom and dad are turning into. Mama was a telephone operator at the settlement house. My daddy was in charge of the buildings and grounds. There was a dental place there, a medical